Hi, folks. What a difference a week makes. Just a week ago today, we were all feeling very differently about the outcome of the election. We were enthusiastic, optimistic. We had a pretty good feeling that it was going to be a landslide, just not on the other side. What a difference 4 years makes. 4 years ago, we had 3,000 people dying per day. We had food lines for miles. We couldn't find toilet paper, and the so called president of the United States was telling people that we should inject ourselves with disinfectant. And somehow, somewhere along the way, people decided to forgive him for that travesty, for that lack of leadership, because their eggs had become so expensive that they could only afford one pair of gold sneakers. How did we get it so wrong? Where were we getting our information? Well, I'll tell you, we were getting our information from the usual suspects. And those usual suspects were terribly wrong. We're all looking for answers right now. And some of those answers are right there under our nose. Some are simple, some are less simple. But we're going to do our best to get to the bottom of things. Are you ready? I am. Let's go. Storytime. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. Yes, you guys, I am just as shocked and flabbergasted and disgusted as I'm sure the rest of you are. Seen a lot of comments out there, and yeah, we're all still trying to get our legs underneath us. My reaction was pretty much this time. It's pretty much the same, and I'm going to get into that. But first, I want to say welcome. I see Zelda has reclaimed her perch atop the throne of the first arrivals, followed by Happy Hippie is back here. Welcome, Happy Hippie. CJ is here. Claudia is here. Fox Hill Dreams. Mary Margaret Rachel is here. Linda L. The Trump Reaper, of course. Tracy M, aka Nurse Mitch, is here. Monique Lee. Bernadette H is here. Valerie G. Stephanie L from Florida, Cindy C, Brad Zoke. Am I pronouncing that last name correct, Brad? Let me know. Mary Johnson. Brett H wants to know, is he telling me that the 81 million votes really didn't happen? I'm not telling you that, that's for sure. Oh, it might have been the troll I booted out of here. Samantha Hawkins, I see you. Chris from Salt Lake City, welcome. Veronica Tello, Watcher Soko, your boy Ken is back in the saddle, your boy Ken, Queen of the South, Lori B, Aries Wanderer. Okay, so it's Shell Teresa. I see there. Crispus Attucks. Yep. Okay, so guys, do me a favor. I'm gonna try to focus on the show and not on the clowns. So I got a bunch of moderators in the room here. Hello, Pam Ham. Moderators, do your thing. Help a brother out. Olivia S. says, greetings from Seattle. Hello, Olivia S. VJ Arul Muthu. Winter Queen Kel. CNN Kelly is here. Trump Reaper says, I feel bitter. I'm with you. I'm with you there. Bernadette says, grieving and heartbroken. Juan Segura says, tough day the other night, but we must keep moving forward. That's the key. That is the key, my friend. Trisha says, I'm heartbroken, but also getting pissed. This is insanity. You, Trisha, are probably closest to where I am. Excuse me, right now, because yeah, I'm pissed, and I think pissed is a good place to be. Those votes disappeared. Yeah, so people are talking about votes disappearing, and yeah, we're gonna get into that too. Let me first lead off by putting this here. Where are the votes? Where are the votes? That really bugged me. I could not understand. As somebody said, I'm sorry, I forget who said it, but 81 million votes 4 short years ago. And in fact, I would have bet more than my lunch money that she was going to do better than 81 this time around, because there was such a strong indication of additional support from other places where she normally would not be able to count on that support. Namely, a lot of Republicans who were like fleeing camp and saying, no, voting for Kamala. So that was confusing. So the other day, Kamala Harris did make a concession speech. It was hard to watch, hard to hear, but and I'm sure it was even more difficult for her to deliver. But it was necessary, and she did her thing. I think what was even more difficult, oh my God, what was it? Terribly difficult pill to swallow was watching Donald Trump on stage with his family on election night. It was late. I forget what time it was. It might have been 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. It was a lot later than I thought. I thought he would have been up there way earlier to do his little victory dance or whatever. That was tough. It was very tough. What's even tougher, wait, why am I here? Hang on a second. What is happening? Yeah, what's even tougher is that this time it looks like he might actually end up, or maybe has already ended up, securing more popular votes than Kamala Harris. And that's a tough nut to swallow. As you can see on the graph on the screen, on the far right, it says 2024 estimated. And the reason it says estimated is because those votes have not yet been tallied. So if I'm jumping the gun, I'm sorry, but yeah, people are asking, where are the votes? Some of them have yet to be counted. That doesn't account for the votes that that I anticipated. It just accounts for the votes that have been collected but not yet tallied thus far. And now, now, what do I do with my fantastic book, The Bigliest Loser? And I will say, ladies and gentlemen, I will say, I stand by what I've created. It is an excellent book. The writing is spot on. For the most part, with the exception of the end, everything else is 100% accurate. It's accurate. It's funny. It's still a keepsake. It's a moment in time, I think. So if you haven't gotten one, I would highly recommend you get one, and get one that is autographed by me before I'm, a big celebrity. Let's see. Let's go back to this here. And please remember, if you have not, Bernadette H. got her book Saturday. Nice to hear that. Please remember to hit the subscribe and the like button. The like button looks like the thumbs up, like I'm holding up there. And subscribe. Make sure you don't miss any content that I put out from this channel here. Stephanie L. says she loves her books, plural, because she's got the first one, The Littlest President, and what do you call it? The Bigliest Loser. And Aries Wanderer says still wants the book. Is it too late for the autographed copy? No, it is not. I am still autographing as we speak. Hey, this is a great question. Anita G. Ma says, does anyone else find it curious that he said earlier, I don't need your vote. We have enough votes already long before the election. Why, of course. I am right there with you. I do find that curious and peculiar. We're going to get into that as well. Hello, Lucille. I see you there. Okay, so let me start off also by saying I do not give a shit about any of these White House picks. I don't care who his chief of staff is going to be. I don't care who secretary of state. I don't care about any of that shit right now. I will never refer to him as president-elect. I will never refer to him as president. As far as I'm considered, he is still the twice impeached, adjudicated rapist, convicted felon. And he's a disgrace and should have never even been allowed to run for president. I still contend that. We have a 14th Amendment that was supposed to seal that shit off. Yeah. It sticks in my craw. Look, I'm accepting where we are now. That's the difference between us and them. The difference is we don't like this outcome. We're not happy with it, but you're not going to catch any of us storming the Capitol, trying to stop certification. We're going to follow the law. And, it doesn't get us any brownie points or anything. We have the satisfaction of knowing that we are right and we are righteous, but it doesn't mean a damn thing to the bad guys. And I'm sorry that I have to characterize those people as the bad guys. But for all intents and purposes, they don't give a shit about the law. All they care about is winning, and they'll win at any cost. And we're suckers, I suppose, for abiding by the law. But let me also give you a little bit of hope, because, no, not that. Let me also give you a little bit of hope, because there is still a chance for Democrats to secure the House majority. And that, my friends, would make Hakeem Jeffries Speaker of the House. Why does that matter? Because the House controls the purse strings of government. You can't do shit without the House's blessing. You can't. I mean, you could, but how are you going to pay for it, right? and any of these major initiatives that they want to do. And that includes deporting 10, 15, 20 million people. I honestly don't see how that's possible to do. I don't see how it's possible to deport 20 million. I don't even see how it's possible to deport 10 million, logistically speaking. Let's say they had all the money that they needed somehow. I don't see logistically how they make that happen. I don't get it. Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, so I was talking about the House, and so Hakeem Jeffries right now has a chance. Now, I can't really say how great that chance is. Currently, the tally is 200 Democrats have secured their seats in the House, and 211 Republicans have secured their seats in the House. So it's 200 to 211. You need 218 to control the House, and there's something like I think 24 seats that are up in the air. So, however that shakes out will determine who has control of the House. So there's a chance. As long as there's a chance, I'm happy. And you know what? To be perfectly honest with you, even if we don't win the House, there is hope. There is hope because we have been down this road before. 2016. In 2016, this was before I was Brooklyn Dad defiant. I was just Brooklyn Dad for Hillary. Fun fact, many of you probably already know this story, but on November 9th, 2016, there were a bunch of people. I was in a bunch of different DM groups, direct message rooms, and I checked in with them, after the horrible, heartbreaking news. And they were like, well, Brooklyn, I'm just going to, I'm going to head out. I'm going to tuck my tail between my legs because the trolls are going to come after me. And I was like, what? Right now? This is when you choose to pack up and go? When we need you the most? When we need you to stand up and fight? Stand up and fight. So that's when I became Brooklyn Dad defiant. I was, in defiance of the give up attitude, the defeatism. Yeah, I said, fuck that. Fuck that. Let's go. Let's go. It's time to get to work. So some people are going to need more time to, settle in and find their angry person inside, but that's what you need to find. You need to find your angry person inside. Now, that said, it's going to be tough to walk around angry like all the time. You keep that shit on tap. But be ready is what I'm saying. Right now there's nothing other than just the outrage of having a convicted felon in our White House to be outraged and upset about. But he technically has not really done anything yet. So let's, as they say, keep your powder dry. Keep your powder dry. I am ready to react, and I'm ready to jump into action when it is needed. Look at Jamie from Wisconsin is here. Holy shit. Jamie from Wisconsin. Glad to see you, my friend. It was a long time. It's been a very long time. So welcome back. In fact, I'm seeing a whole lot of people I haven't seen in forever. Stella Baxter is here. Stella Baxter says MAGA is already experiencing buyer's remorse. Did you hear about the workers in PA that found out that they aren't getting their annual bonuses because the company had to stock up on materials? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I'm going to share that with you guys in a second. But first, I have to say, Zelda, my friend, you are wonderful. Thank you so kindly. Thank you so much for supporting the show. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. You are terrific. Awesome. Awesome. All right, let's see. Let me jump over to my Twitter. Let's go here. And I'll show you this thing from last night. This is what she was talking about here. So, results have already started. This is from an American woman today. My husband works for a small manufacturing company, and here in southwestern PA, excuse me, that means most employees are Trump voters. When the president of the company sat them down today to tell them that their annual Christmas bonus would not come this year because they now need to purchase at least a year's worth of products prior to January 21st due to the proposed tariffs, they did not understand. My husband said that their president had to explain what a tariff is and how it will directly hurt their company. They all thought the foreign company paid the tariff. This is the level of ignorance voting against their own interests here in PA, where we failed American women and children last night. Yeah. And there's more and more stories like that that are popping up everywhere. It's interesting. I'm not really gloating. I'm not gloating, but I kind of am. I feel bad, but not really. I mean, the good person in me does not like to see others suffer, even, when they're being hoisted by their own petard, even if they're, a victim of their own ignorance, I'll say. Uh, but yeah, so let's just go back briefly because I feel like we need to kind of process Tuesday night. So as I'm watching the election results, I do recall that it does take time for these election results to shake out. Like 2020, we were watching, and the result, we didn't even have a final result until Saturday. Saturday, I want to say it was November 7th, right? Saturday, November 7th sounds right. Is when we found out. And it was what a glorious day that was. But, it was like several days later. Granted, that was during the pandemic, and most people were doing the mail in ballots, and it took a while to count them up. We were waiting on Arizona a lot. So, yeah. So I was watching, and I was flipping back and forth between John King on CNN and Steve Kornacki on MSNBC. And Kornacki, he's good at what he does, but he's just too caffeinated for me at times. And so, like, I get get anxiety sometimes listening to him, so I was flipping back and forth, just like looking for anything, some kernel, some nugget of hope to cling to. Alas, there was none. There was none. And all they were doing was they kept going back to showing 2020 how much better President Biden had performed in these different districts and how much less, how many fewer votes Kamala Harris was getting. And, I've told you guys this before. I do kind of have a conspiracy theorist in me that I keep locked up in a cage in my brain, because I like to live in reality with the rest of everybody. And being a conspiracy theorist, it requires you to to shut off the shared experience of reality that everybody else has and concoct something fantastical. Because when things don't make sense, let me just say, when things don't make sense and we're not getting answers, right? Answers to questions that, we should have ready access to, and those answers aren't forthcoming, we start, drawing our own conclusions, connecting our own dots, you know. Um, so, of course, there's a tendency to want to make sense out of this thing, and that's where MAGA went off the deep end. They fell off the cliff with the whole rig thing. Why? Because Donald Trump spent the better part of the past 4 years saying that the 2020 election was rigged. This was a topic of discussion that almost became like a rite of passage, like if a reporter asked someone, asked the politician, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? Their answer was always, Joe Biden is the president. We know he's the president, but did Donald Trump lose fair and square? We're not going to get into all this. People, the American public doesn't want to. Actually, they do want an answer to it. Why can't you just answer the question? Did he lose fair and square? So there was that wink and a nod. They were all saying that Joe Biden did not win fair and square. So that thing was constantly going and going and going. Donald Trump spent the past 4 years saying that this election was going to be rigged. Not one vote was cast yet. And we spent most of our time pushing him back and saying, what, he's stupid? And if you think about it, like when you say something is going to be rigged, there's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of different election workers and officials and people who take their responsibility and their job very seriously. They go there and they don't care what party they are. They have integrity and they have morals and values. And they're not about to twist them for any politician, because politicians, they come and go every 4 years. You have to live with yourself, and the people, they're not getting rich off of doing that shit, working the elections. Nobody's getting rich doing that. So they do that because they love their country. They're doing their civic duty. And so when you call something rigged, you're almost implying that they're part of that too. And that's like disrespectful to them. I'm not saying that I don't have questions, because I do have questions, some questions that need to be answered. I'm just saying maybe we shouldn't just, quickly just wipe our hands clean of this and not even take a second look at what happened, okay? Because there is a rush to say, okay, well, that was that. No need to look at it again. No one need to examine what had happened. Let's just take a look. That's all. I'm not going to make a federal case out of it. I would like to see, was every vote counted? Did any votes disappear? I want to know that. That's all. I want to know. Where was I? Yeah. So anyway, I was. It was election night, and I didn't cry. I kind of felt like I wanted to, but I was just too tired. I was at the time I told you I was up until like almost 6 a.m. I was disappointed. I really, really thought that America was going to get it right, that America was going to pull a 2008 on us, not 2016, right? 2008, I was pleasantly surprised. I did not think in 2008 we were going to elect President Obama. I was supporting him. But even then, in 2008, I thought I was originally supporting Hillary Clinton because I thought there's no way on God's green earth that America is going to elect a black man whose first and last name sound African, Barack Obama, and his middle name is literally the last name of Saddam Hussein, Barack Hussein Obama. I was like, would you look at this name? And sure, of course, Donald Trump picked up on that. So every time he said President Obama's name, Barack Hussein Obama, that racism right there. So yeah, I was very disappointed that 2008 America didn't show up, but 2016 America showed up instead. It's almost like they've forgotten, you know, all of the shit that this scumbag was responsible for. 34 felony counts, guilty in a court of law. It's not like it was not a kangaroo court. It was all legitimate. They were calling it lawfare to try to, cover his ass, his guilty ass. Donald Trump, they said, oh, all of a sudden, well, got all these these cases against him. That's because, he thought that he could get away with all of that shit. Because he's been getting away with shit for most of his adult life. He's been getting away with grabbing women by their private parts. He's been getting away with assaulting women. He's been getting away with stiffing workers, not paying them overtime, not paying them straight up time. He would owe people money for work they had done. Workers, and I'm stressing the word workers because these fucking asshole talking heads on the TV in the past 3 days have been battering us about the head, saying, the Democratic Party has just not figured out a way to speak to the workers. They were left behind. Are you kidding me? President Biden stood in line with workers, striking union workers, while Donald Trump was busy telling the workers that they were wasting their time striking. So guilty. COVID, one of the main reasons I had written Bigliest Loser was because I felt like, America was memory holing what happened in 2020. In Donald Trump's last year in office, the most important year was his last year, because that was when America was hit by a crisis of monumental proportions. And that's the time, you get 2 outs and 2 strikes and bases loaded. That's the time you're supposed to step up. But instead, incredulously, this guy said, I don't take any responsibility at all. The President of the United States, the leader. Past presidents have said things like, the buck stops here. I don't take any responsibility at all. So yeah, we had mass graves. We had trucks, refrigerated trucks driving around corpses. We couldn't find toilet paper, common supplies because the supply chain was busted. This jackass was saying that it's soon, it's 15, soon it's going to be down to 0. It's going to be gone by spring, Easter, whatever. He was wrong on all counts. You had cars lining up for miles for food banks. Miles. Look at the screen here, guys. Miles of cars lined up for food banks. And this is the guy that Americans are trying to say, oh yeah, he's going to do much better on the economy because when he was in office, eggs were cheaper. January 6th. I don't understand how half of the country was vastly offended by January 6th, and the other half were like, insurrection, I don't care. I don't care. Stella Baxter, you hit it right on the head. Let me read this out loud from Stella Baxter. She says, we need to build up the left-wing independent media. We can't depend on MSM anymore. MSM is mainstream media. We have to find a way to get the truth out. Thank you for that. Lamanto Smith says Democrats are for working people. This is correct. Mary Johnson wants to know. She says, New Hampshire had a record turnout higher than 2020. I'm sure New Hampshire isn't the only state that had a large turnout. Where did the ballots go? It's a good question. Yeah, this violence was reprehensible, and they're even talking about pardoning these violent attackers from January 6th. Here's a tweet from Donald Trump, October 2018. Says, of course, there is large-scale voter fraud happening on and before Election Day. Why do Republican leaders deny what is going on? So naive. 2018, he was saying this. And fast forward to 2023. Find the rigors. There will be a complete exoneration. Yeah, more presidential, a large, complex, detailed, but irrefutable report on the presidential election fraud which took place in Georgia is almost complete. That was the one where he said, I just need you to find 11,780 votes. He doesn't see anything wrong with trying to strong arm the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, to tell him to find. That's the only thing that's missing. Find me 11,780 votes. Just materialize. Make them materialize. Find them. Leading up to the election, Republicans were just racking up the lawsuits. They were piling up lawsuit after lawsuit in anticipation of there being some kind of voter fraud. And then on the day itself, November 5th, he posted this on Truth Social. A lot of talk about massive cheating in Philadelphia, law enforcement coming. So he spoke to law enforcement and they said they're coming. So I would like to know, right? If we rigged the election in 2020, when we didn't have power, mind you, we didn't have access to the apparatus, how do we not rig it in 2024? I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible, I guess. But that guy, Chris, what's his face, said that that election was the most secure in modern history, the 2021. I haven't heard any such declaration about this election yet. I assume it was secure. But then Donald Trump, a few weeks ago, made this peculiar, suspicious statement saying that he and Mike Johnson, Speaker, MAGA Mike Johnson, had a little secret that was going to make a difference with the election. I think with our little secret, we're going to do really, really well with the House, right? Mr. Trump said, addressing Mr. Johnson directly. Our little secret is having a big impact. He and I have a little secret. We will tell you what it is when the race is over. Like this thing was so major, he could barely contain himself. And then he started saying things like, this was months ago, Christians, you don't have to vote again. You don't have to vote again. And, of course, the right wing media rushed to sane wash his comments. What he meant was he was going to fix things so good because he was going to make everything permanently perfect that you'd never even want to vote because you just want to leave him as president for life and beyond. The ghost of President Trump would be in office with God himself guiding his tiny hands. Yeah, I did say I was going to share with you. Some of you may have already seen this thing here that Rachel Maddow shared the other night. Hang on. I don't like how my my videos have jumped all over the place. Is this it? No. Hang on. Let me look at call to activism because they have that video. Here it is.
Something more strange. But let me also point out something more strange, which has been happening at the same time and hasn't had as much attention. The day before Trump made those remarks on Friday, he said, you're never going to have to vote again after you vote for me this one time. The day before that, on Thursday last week, he didn't say that people wouldn't have to vote anymore once he was elected this November. Now, the day before that, on Thursday, he told his supporters, not that they're not going to have to vote again, but that they don't have to vote this time, that they don't need to vote for him this November.
My instruction, we don't need the votes. I have so many votes.
My instruction, we don't need the votes. I have so many votes. He said that on Thursday last week. And it turns out this is something, when you look, he says this all the time now. Watch.
Before you watch that, my instruction, he said, we don't need the votes.
My instruction, we don't need the votes. I have so many votes.
We don't need votes. I tell my people, I don't need any votes. We got all the votes we need. I don't need votes. We don't need votes. We got more votes than anybody's ever had. You don't have to vote. Don't worry about voting. The voting, we got plenty of votes.
Don't worry about voting. Of all the weirdness around this campaign, this is a truly strange thing to tell people, right? Don't vote. I don't need your vote. I don't want your vote. I mean, all the surface level weirdness is, worth noting. Having a new position on literally anything you can think of as soon as any random rich guy tells you to. That's a weird thing. Picking the eccentric billionaire's intern for your running mate, even though you apparently had no idea who he was or what a disaster he is on television. All of this is weird. But telling voters, do not bother to vote for me. It doesn't matter if you do. I don't need your votes. That is a thing that should prick up your ears. Because what that means is that he doesn't think he needs to win the vote to win the election. He doesn't think he needs to win the election in order to take power. He thinks something other than votes is going to determine whether or not he gets back in the White House.
Yeah, so she said it should make your ears prick up. It most certainly did. I was very concerned, I would say alarmed, when I saw and heard that. And it bothers me that people want to just kick that under the rug and, just like, let's just memory hold that. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean a damn thing. All that. And then, mind you, after he After he ran his mouth off over and over with that talking point, then he suddenly stopped. And then he started saying, oh, yeah. Go ahead. Actually, on second thought, please vote. Because he was making it too obvious that he was up to something. I'm just saying, do we have evidence that he somehow, got together with Elon and some people who know technology and figured something out? Do we have any evidence that those bomb threats that were called in on election day required law enforcement to come in and tend to whatever? They had to come in and do a full examination before they can let people continue to vote. And wasn't it early? It kind of was early in the day when that was happening all over in battleground states. Are we just supposed to just let these coincidences just go? Huh? Bothers the shit out of me. It really does. It really, really does. And I don't want to be distracted by this. I would like to move on with my life. I don't want to become a 2024 election truther. Not interested in that. I am interested in moving forward, but I want some fucking answers. Okay? It's not my job to look into that shit, but it should be somebody's job. Don't just kick that to the side and expect us to eat that shit the way you expected us to eat that his ear magically healed after being shot by a bullet that should have obliterated his entire ear. Not even a scratch. Not even a visible, discernible scratch 1 week after the supposed assassination attempt. And I hate that I have to put the word supposed in there, but come on. Where's the medical report? You know that they would have had Joe Biden's medical report out there if the same thing had happened. They would want to know exactly which ventricle, which capillaries were nicked. They would want to know all of that shit. How many blood platelets did he lose? Precisely. How many millions? Where is the scar? Where is it? And, I like I said, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole with this. I do value my sanity. But before we move on, right, I just want to share some of the other things. That there are things on Twitter right now, and none of these things can I verify. There's Eric Garland, who I've seen on Twitter for many, many years. He says he keeps hearing that everyone is freaking out because Netanyahu just stole the 2024 election with our media's help. Guys, you know what time it is? Yeah. And I did read his thread. It didn't make much sense to me other than he's saying Netanyahu has people who have disability. But I didn't see any proof of that. I'm just saying this is some of the stuff that's out there. Here's another one from Misconception. She says, just an FYI, my ballot was confirmed received last week. And this morning, this. It says and this was issued 10/7 at 2:07 p.m. Your vote by mail ballot has not yet been received by the registrar of voters. So she said it was confirmed received last week, but now she's getting a notification saying it was not received. And there's nothing she can do to make it suddenly be received either. So that's concerning. I would like to know if these things are followed up on. This is more concerning. Senators in 6 swing states won. However, Kamala lost all 6. There needs to be a forensic investigation immediately. How does that happen? Who has to ask for the investigation? Another thing that's peculiar, look at North Kakalaki, North Carolina. every single Democrat from the governor on down won. But not Kamala. Not Kamala Harris did not win North Carolina. But all the other Democrats underneath her won. When's the last time you saw something weird like that happen? Anybody? Does that make any sense? I'm gonna, in this partisan environment, people are gonna split their ticket and vote and elect every single member of the House and the governor and everybody else Democrat, but not Kamala Harris for president. No, we're gonna stick with Donald Trump. That convicted felon guy. It's weird. It's weird. And I resent, people that tell me, just move on. Just why? Huh? These other motherfuckers were allowed to wallow and stew in it for 4 years. And we can't give this 4 days. We can't give it 4 weeks of examination. We can't look at it for a little while before you completely hand over the reins to someone who may have been involved or complicit in some chicanery that went down. Ben Krause writes, so you're telling me after record registrations, long lines, record rallies, and more positive energy than I've ever seen since Obama, 20 million Democrats just sat this one out? No way. Not a chance. Yeah, it's peculiar. It's wild. It's wild. So you guys may be familiar with my buddy Nick Knudsen. Nick runs the Operation Demcast. I have a ton of respect for my man Nick, and so I needed to share this with you guys. He wrote, "Let me be explicit and emphatic. There is nothing suspect about the election results. There are not, quote unquote, missing votes, and no votes, quote unquote, disappeared. There are millions of uncounted votes in PA, California, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Nevada. None of them will change the result, but the final margin will be closer than it is now. Final turnout will be much higher than it is now. As we said all along, it takes time to count all the votes. Do not feed into conspiracy theories. Do not become the election deniers we despise." So, like I said, I love Nick. Nick is about as hardcore defender of democracy you're ever going to meet. He works harder than most people I know. He stays up late nights, fighting for this thing. Nick is the grassroots. When you talk about like grassroots organizations, that's Nick. So, he doesn't have anything to gain by telling me and telling us, that everything is on board. I trust and respect what he says. But I still want an investigation. I still want, you still got the reins of power, President Biden. And that pathetic excuse for an Attorney General, Merrick Garland, do your fucking job, okay? Do your fucking job and investigate a goddamn thing, right? You did not prosecute Donald Trump when you had the chance, and now all of his legal delays have allowed him to escape justice. It's insane. Insane. So where does that leave us then, right? Who is to blame for the expectations? First of all, there have been some expectations that have been created and set. There have been expectations created and set about Joe Biden, about Donald Trump, and about Kamala Harris. Over the past 4 years, the media, the MSM, the mainstream media, has done everything it could to make this a horse race, to kneecap Joe Biden and to give Donald Trump a leg up in this. Sane washing was a great word that appeared this year. And I think that was the best thing to describe, anything and everything that this guy was involved in. They didn't even touch the Jeffrey Epstein stuff at all. There was a whole lot of hoopla around. The only people that came close to addressing it was that Fox News reporter that he allowed himself to be questioned by Fox News because that's his safe space. And she asked him, she said, if you were to win the presidency, would you declassify the JFK assassination? Yes. He didn't even hesitate, just immediately. Yes. Would you declassify 9/11? Absolutely. Yes. Would you declassify Jeffrey Epstein? Like, I think so, but I'm not. Like, so now here he's waffling. You can't be too careful because it's, this could destroy some people and, oh, so that why is he waffling on that? Well, it turns out that there's substantial amount of evidence to show that he knew Jeffrey Epstein very well. He spent a lot of time with Jeffrey Epstein to the point where he's all over his call logs. He's all over his flight logs. And there are tapes. That guy, what's his name? Michael Wolff, who wrote that book, some book about Donald Trump. I can't remember it. Fire and the Fury or something. And so he's got audio recordings with Jeffrey Epstein is saying, my buddy, Donald Trump, we were like this. And you can't see what I'm doing, but like this. He was saying he was very close friends with Donald Trump. So yeah, none of the main players wanted to touch that at all. And they gave him a pass on so much. What's the point of him being a convicted felon and not reminding Americans at every fucking step that he is a convicted felon? What's the point in him being an adjudicated rapist if you're going to leave that off of your description of him when you talk about him? Where are Americans getting their preconceived notions about things? Where are they getting their information, for instance, about the economy? Or about Joe Biden's age? All they could focus on for the past 3 years, Joe Biden is old. Look how old Joe Biden is. He's old. Joe Biden is old. Look at him go. Oh, he fell. Oh, look at him go. Look at him shuffle his feet. Until the point where he finally, that drumbeat got so loud after the debate. I see that people, so over the past couple of days, these media talking heads have spent the past few days since the election trying to point blame at other people. They're the ones who fart on the elevator, and when the doors open and somebody's about to get on, they get off quickly. They're like, oh man, somebody farted in there. Yeah, they were the ones who created the perception that Joe Biden was old. When he did his State of the Union address, everybody was like, holy shit, that's Joe Biden. Wow. Joe Biden was like, loose and easy and sharp and smacking Republicans around in live time. Live. If you're wondering why I am pausing like that, it's because I am booting out these motherfuckers here. Please, guys, help me out. Moderators. Yeah. So they created a perception about Joe Biden that he was far too old and feeble for the job. He's only 2 years older than Donald Trump. Seem to forget that in their narrative. So finally, by the time he had the debate, it was a disaster. It was a disaster. And now he's been going full steam ahead. Everybody thinks he's the same Joe Biden from the State of the Union. He was not. Clearly, he had missed a step. So they never focused on Donald Trump's age or his dementia. The fact that he's saying all these offbeat, crazy things. In fact, even over the past month, it's just insane. He was filleting a microphone days before the election. And then this poll came out just in a few days running up to the election. The opinion on the direction of the country. Would you say that things in the country are going in the right direction or heading in the wrong direction? And according to this poll, 60% of respondents said it was headed in the wrong direction. Only 30% said it was going in the right direction. And this is, interestingly enough, in the year 2020, July of 2020, when Donald Trump was president, only 20% of people said it was headed in the right direction. So this is a snapshot going back to 2020, real time in 2020. The same voters who are saying today that it's heading in the wrong direction were saying that it was headed in the wrong direction when this motherfucker, who they said is better for our economy, they were saying he had the country headed in the wrong direction in 2020. So how is he suddenly better for the economy when we've had unemployment at 4% for the past 4 years straight? Inflation is down to 2.4%. Wage growth is outpacing inflation, which means people's salaries are going up faster than prices are going up. Stock market is booming. People are working. Manufacturing jobs are back. Gas prices are lower. Much lower right now. And I know presidents don't have the ability to control the price of gas, but you know something? He did something very clever with oil production. He started selling oil high and getting the American taxpayer a profit and buying when oil was low. When they were talking about him, releasing our strategic reserves. He did that shit with a purpose. He made us She made us a profit on those strategic reserves. Yes, Watcher Soko, I do know. Not in California. I do know that for whatever reason, California's gas is always higher than everyone else's. I'm sorry about that. The Economist has been saying that America's economy is the envy of the world because it's not just America that had inflation. It's been a global thing. But America was the best at smacking it down. The best, hands down. Any world leader would kill to have America's economy right now. What happens? We get people on the street get asked, how do you feel about the economy? Are prices too high for you? Absolutely, these prices are too high. I don't know what's going on. And it's all in how you ask the question. And it's all in who you report. You think they just talk to one person on the street? No, they talk to several. Many. And they choose the people that they want to choose to set the narrative. It's a choice. If they wanted to, they could pick somebody who said, you know what? I'm doing okay. Yeah, I can know the price could be better. I don't like paying higher prices. And nobody is saying that the prices were not too high. Kamala Harris said, you know what? I'd like to go after the price gougers. These price gougers in the grocery. Everybody's like, oh, it's communism. Oh, really? So you're happy then with the prices being unnecessarily high. You're fine with that. Communism. So how do you propose making those prices go down? A tariff? And then Joe Biden made a comment a week or two ago reacting to that comedian at Madison Square Garden saying that his comments were garbage. He says, earlier today, I referred to the hateful rhetoric about Puerto Rico spewed by Trump's supporter at the Madison Square Garden rally as garbage. His rhetoric, which is the only word I can think of to describe it, his demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That's all I meant to say. So immediately after he said it, he clarified what he meant. This is unlike Donald Trump. Donald Trump says things and then people scurry out to clean up. President Biden came out himself and said it. But that didn't matter. Then you saw people wearing garbage bags. Don Jr. and Megyn Kelly and a bunch of knuckleheads wearing garbage bags. Oh, we're garbage. And Donald Trump is going out in a garbage truck, making a whole lot of hay out of nothing. And then the polls came out. Polls very deceptive. If the 2024 election were held today, who would you vote for if the candidates were? And then Joe Biden was leading Trump by a healthy 6%. Kamala Harris at one point was leading him by a healthy 20%. What happened since then? I don't know. But what I do know is that our media has once again failed us miserably. Instead of reporting on how the economy actually is, they were reporting on vibes, on how somebody feels about the economy, on how somebody feels. And of course, people barely have time to process anything that requires any kind of thought whatsoever. So if they see somebody on the news talking about prices are too high, yeah, they're going to go with that. Everybody likes to bitch and agree with what they're bitching about. Prices are too high. And suddenly it became a narrative. So they fucked us. And I forget who it was that said that we needed more of a left wing independent press out there, I agree. I agree with that because the right wing, they have not just Fox News, they also have there's CNN. Believe it or not, CNN is Fox News Light. They have Newsmax, they have America One News, they have whatever the hell Charlie Kirk is, and Benny Johnson, the guy who collected $1 million a month from Russia, Candace Owens. They have a whole ecosystem that works to disseminate information, bad information, disinformation. And we don't have anything comparable to combat that. Why? Because MSNBC spends way too much time trying to be fair and balanced. What Fox News was supposed to be with their fair and balanced thing. MSNBC tries to be fair and balanced. And I shouldn't, excuse me, I shouldn't be complaining about them trying to uphold some, journalistic integrity. But again, where is our Newsmax or OAN? Where's ours? Where's our, I don't want a Charlie Kirk or a Ben Shapiro or a Candace Owens, but we should have our own ecosystem on this side here to help us set our narrative. Instead, here's another thing I had a problem with too. When bullshit broke, when Republicans clipped something disingenuously, they clipped a little bit of video and they made it look like one thing when it was really something else. They would put that out there and they would use their network to blast it all over the place. And of course, Elon would help supercharge it on Twitter because he can. And before the Democratic Party had a chance to even respond to that lie had gone around the world at light speed. So we, the Democratic Party, I would say, needs to get better at combating that bullshit. There should be a real rapid response just to squash the bullshit. And it was easily debunked stuff. The stuff was debunked almost as soon as it came out. But there was no mechanism to help disseminate that, not like the right wing has. So that's where I come down on, this blame game. I'm already over watching the news at this point. I think I'm going to take a break from watching MSNBC or CNN for a while because it's sickening. They're spending their energy pointing their finger this way and that way. It's this person's fault and that person's fault. Joe Biden should have gotten out of the race earlier. Maybe he could have, but there was nothing that the Democrats could have done to break through, to break through the noise, I guess, on the Republican side. They effectively created a bullshit narrative that knocked down our economy, for one, right? Anytime we wanted to spread some good news about the economy, we'd have people in the media saying, oh, you can't tell people how they feel, how they're supposed to feel about the economy. But you can tell them, you can disabuse them of an incorrect notion that there's Okay. Let's see what. All right, there we go. I don't know what I did. Did something wrong. But yeah, you can correct misinformation about the economy, if so, or about anything really. Somebody says, that something is blue and really it's orange, then you can tell them it's not. It's not blue. It really is. All right. So I don't know what is happening with this show, but I am going to wrap things up because it's Friday night and it's time for me to start my pizza and movie night. I have no idea what I'm watching tonight, but I am going to chillax, going to chill out and relax. And I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, for staying with me. Do me a favor, please, and spread the word about my book, The Bigliest Loser. Um, this is ridiculous. Okay. I will say, here's Jamie saying, everyone give yourself time to cope. That is a great bit of advice there. Yeah. So The Littlest President is available on brooklynDadDefiant.com. I will be here next time this week. Next time next week this time, same place, same time. I love you all.